Hegate Fili Filis. Welcome again to another Pearls of Wisdom project. We're glad to be back here at the church. I'd like to introduce Miss Denise Kritikakis, and we're very glad to have her here today.
I feel so honoured and blessed to have been chosen to do a talk. Thank you ever so much.
And then, anyway, we'll get into the interview now. Our first question, we just want to get a brief overview of what you do in Australia and what's your occupation, your family, and everything about you.
So I work for a government agency and I come from a big family of four, or some would say not so big. But there's two sisters and a brother, and then we go on to have the 6 nieces and nephews, and in turn the production is 13 little ones. So
Wow.
even though mum and dad left us at a very young age, we still come together as family.
So you're in a government job. You have told us behind the scenes that the job does entail dealing with persons who are very vulnerable and have also been in a really bad position in life. And in many cases, it's pretty confronting. We want to know, how do you keep yourself calm and compartmentalize that, get the job going, but at the same time, how do you keep yourself composed when you're dealing with persons of that?
You can show a little bit of empathy and compassion, but we do have to adhere to the guidelines of our job and what we can offer them. We can't promise them the world and not deliver. So it's got to be what it is within legislation. But I've had so many good feel stories where people come back, and through my own personal experience dealing with a family member and knowing of other government bodies that can actually intercede or go and seek help from, it's been having the knowledge, I think, and just being able to help someone when they come in and they don't know where to begin. And you have the knowledge that you can share, and their big problem becomes like, okay, I know where to start, what I have to do, and that problem gets so much smaller, and then don't feel like they're alone. They feel supported, yet we might not grant everybody what they're asking for, but they have the steps or the next part that they need to do in order to get what they're asking for or what they may be entitled to. It's so nice when people appreciate and can see that you've gone over and above, and they come back with a little gift to say, you really didn't have to do all that for me, but I really appreciate it. So it's nice to get that little bit of recognition that they could feel the warmth, that you're trying to help them come through the next stage with a little bit, feeling very supported.
Right. You've mentioned that you keep promises because you made promises that you can keep. And that's a really important thing, I guess, when it comes to helping out persons in need, because you can't promise them things you can't do. At the same time, you mentioned people come back and help you, but do you win some and also lose some every once in a while, where there'll be a person that just can't understand the amount of help you can give them at the time?
We deal with mental health, and unfortunately they do come in with the mindset that they're going to achieve that today, and when they don't, not the best behaviours come out. So
Right.
it can be very challenging at times to keep the behaviours within a workplace very settled, because you can't give them what they're asking for. Yeah, it doesn't always go as planned. And that's why some people can be asked to leave. We have security, and we feel very protected where we work because they do step up, and our well-being and our safety is very, very important to them.
Right. So they essentially run how well it's going to work out for them.
Yeah.
In that sense, we are going to start hitting hard at the very start of this interview, sadly. But you have mentioned to us that you had an experience back in 2019, which was pretty traumatic for you. You almost lost your life. Could you please tell us a bit about that event, an overview, and then later on we want to ask how you dealt with it after, post-event?
Sure. So leading up to that night, I was helping my brother, which has got mental illness, or a loved one, which has got mental illness. And unfortunately, I was at work late and he called me to say to me that he's got suicidal thoughts. So it's an ongoing battle with depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, many different mental health problems. And all I could do at that point was support him. I called an ambulance. The ambulance came, took him into Concord Hospital, where I allowed a couple of days for him to be medicated so I could go at the right time, because I knew he was in good hands. I didn't have to run. It was through COVID, so they wouldn't allow me in anyway. And it was so hard to see your loved one like that, because you think, hold on a moment, you've got a roof over your head, you've got everything going for you. Not being able to understand where their thoughts come from or what their triggers are is very hard for us. Even though we might have dealt with sadness in our life or a loss, grief, we still can't go down the path of, when we visit a hospital like a mental hospital, how and what gets them there. We can't. Unless you've walked that walk, you really can't talk the emotions. But all I can say is that he got medicated, he came much better. So substance might have been the cause that did the trigger. And then I went into his home after he gave me the key. And I was just taken back as to what I saw. There was aluminium foil on the windows. There was curtains. It was just black. There was a fridge behind the door. There was a blow-up mattress in the living room. And I didn't know where to start to help him clean it up. There was 3 skip bins. Someone came in and painted it. And then I was pleading with the hospital to keep him there a little bit longer, because I had to work, after work, go home and get it into some sort of state that he could come home, that there was no memory of what was previously that household. Because he said to me that someone broke in and did that. He had no recollection of how the house got into that state, because I know my brother, that no matter what, his place was always neat and tidy. He could always cook a meal for himself. So he was just beyond tipping point. And I pleaded with the authorities, got all the proper paperwork in place to keep him in there. And finally he came home. He couldn't thank me enough for all the new curtains, the new furniture, the new home. He just walked into this place that was just a whole different unit. So his life started new once he came out. And then it's not long after that, I get attacked in a carjacking by an ice junkie that hadn't slept for 6 nights. So it's praying the whole time I was in the car with this person, just saying, when is it going to end for me? And God turned up that night. The prayers were answered. A truck was in the middle of the road and I could run. for the first time, I could just run.
So the car stopped whilst he was hijacking that car.
So he had escaped the hospital, smashed the glass. He was also in the mental hospital in the unit there at St. George.
Right.
So he smashes the glass doors.
Mm.
He hides near my street across the road. I'm parking my car because I don't have a garage, and he sees the opportunity as I'm getting out to get in the back seat. In his white hospital gown, I saw this guy like this on the back seat, and I just screamed. Unfortunately, no one heard me. I got back in the car as he asked me to, threatening my life. And I said to him, well, I'm not going to drive while you're sitting in the back. You've got to come in the front, put your seatbelt on, and I'll take you wherever you want. Just stay calm. So I gave him my phone because he wanted to do a drug deal in Maroubra. Right. So that fell through because obviously they didn't know the number. So he threw my phone, and then he started punching me with a very closed fist 3 times to the face. And then unfortunately I had a bubunyera in the car, which was a wine opener. Mm. So I'm still focusing on myself. It was like he was reading my mind. It was that powerful, that don't take me to the police station, because we were driving past the street of the police station. And I was actually thinking that. And then it was like, don't go into the servo. And I was actually thinking that, to go into the servo, because there was a couple of cars there, I could have got help.
Yeah.
And it was just this thing that was just going, and I just kept praying. I just kept praying. By that time, he changed his mind and we headed back to Cogra. He wanted me to go over the hump, and I said, no, we've got to do this properly or else we'll lose the bottom of the car. So we turned around and we're coming back, and then he finds the wine opener. He stabs me and pierces me in the face 5 times and 1 in the neck just there.
Right.
And then I was bleeding.
Yeah.
Like a fountain in the side of my neck. And I just kept praying. I kept driving. And because I've done hold up and I've done mental first aider, just keeping my calm. Everything I've ever been taught in a robbery, in dealing with mental health, all came together that night for me. So I was just remaining calm, waiting for the first time where I could leave my car very quickly. So we got to a street and there was a truck like so, and I was like so. Yes. I just put the seatbelt off, put the handbrake on. By the time he could say, I'm going to kill you, I'd already fled the car. There was an oncoming car. A lady helped me. So I said, quickly ring the police and the ambulance, but the police were already looking for him because he had escaped the hospital. Right. So she got a wad of clothing and asked me to put it with a bit of force up against the neck wound. Yep. And then they sat me down, and then 2 other girls came and were starting to talk to me so I wouldn't like faint or anything like that. Yes. And then I could see up in the units in that street that they were calling the ambulance, the police, and by that time the police had come first and they asked me to show them what had happened. I showed them, and then they said, I'll quickly put that back up. And then the ambulance came, and that was the first time I saw myself with my eye was up to here, and this was just bleeding like a fountain. Yep. And I didn't realise how much blood I had until I put my arm up on the ambulance, and I just filled the whole bench with blood. And they gave me a shot of something just to calm me down. Mm-hmm. And then I had to make my way to the hospital and give them obviously my contact details, or some family member, and my sister came. And I remember saying that, don't worry about it, I'll see them in the morning. We need to go now. I can feel it's choking me. We need to go now. Not knowing that I was bleeding inside as well as out. So it was going both ways, the vein. And he had taken the car. When the truck moved, he got into the driver's side. Mm-hmm. and he hit another 2 cars. They went into the hospital for shock, and then he smashes my car up against a brick wall, which was a side of a home.
Right.
So he ended up in hospital, and we were alongside each other in a big ward. So I was up one end and he was down the other. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah.
On the same ward.
In the same ward. So the police were coming to me to get a statement, and we're going to him to try to arrest him.
Right.
Yeah. So it was very, very traumatic. No one thought I would see through the night.
Yeah.
But what they did was, while I was still awake, they put an apparatus down my throat, a little way that way, a little way that way. I wouldn't be able to speak ever again. I couldn't speak for 3 days. I was writing things down. And I remember Father Sophroni from Croker came, and he said to me, "Don't even worry, you're going to make a full recovery." And that just gave me this lift that I needed, this thing that I'm going to be okay. You know, I made it through the night. My family was coming through every 10 minutes to say goodbye, my aunties, my uncles. And I guess it wasn't my time. God had other plans for me.
Yeah.
And it was, by the end of the week, I was walking home. And that wasn't my first time. It was like, I remember another time in Kogra, it was the Panigiri of the church. And my father was dying of cancer. And I was made redundant, and I was still running for work, trying to get through everything. I bounced off the bonnet of a car, off the windscreen, down on the side of the footpath.
And this is after your incident?
No, this one is before.
Oh,
this is like 10 years before. And I just think, oh my God, how many lives do I have? How many blessings?
Right.
But I rang my boss in the ambulance, and I'm saying, "I'm really sorry, I won't be at work today. I've just been hit by a driver."
Oof.
And he goes, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm in the ambulance. They're taking me to the hospital. I think I'll be okay." He came that evening, and I just walked out of hospital hours later for observation with 5 stitches to the head. And I think, oh my God, that was a saint helping me that day as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, from the sound of it, it seemed like an artery was nicked.
That one, yeah.
And that you probably have 40 seconds before you go unconscious with that. So I would think there was quite a bit of theos up there.
Yeah, every person that I spoke to when I was in Greece, a priest or in a monastery, they said to me, "Ο Θεός και η Παναγιά σε προστάτεψε εκείνο το βράδυ." Because it was hours, like the police came first, then the ambulance came.
Yeah.
So it was like I was sitting on the side of lucky the lady came straight away.
And gave you that way to sometimes clot the wound.
Yeah.
And in general, I understand why those medical people would be really distressed about it and not sure. But it's glad that you
I am so glad. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. We know it could be a bit hard still reliving that. So thank you very much from everyone here on the team.
Thank you.
So you've also mentioned that your father was dying of cancer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We want to know a bit more about how you dealt with that, but specifically when someone loses their parents in their adult life, both of their parents, how are they able to deal with that compared to, let's say, a child? How would an adult deal with such a problem? And then also, would you still consider yourself as an orphan? By the time you're an adult and both of your parents have died, would you be an orphan at that point?
You're so funny that you should ask that question, because someone's actually said to me that you're an orphan, and so it does come up every now and again that, but I think the church, the services, everything was helping. When you see a loved one in pain for 6 weeks from start to finish, and his brother was a chanter in Greece, and he had just passed away, and he said, my brother's going to come and get me. And with the 40 days in Greece, my father passed away that Sunday morning. What he said to us, like an insight, and it's like, it's okay, my brother's going to come and get me. So for 1 week in the hospital, his last week of his life, it was all of us, my mum, my sisters, my brother, we were laughing, crying, sharing memories. I will take that with me forever. And then the services, the fathers helping us understand the words, they gave us comfort. They took that sadness and gave us that hope that one day we will rejoice and meet again. And you just look forward to that, because I feel like my mum and dad had a full life, but it was short.
In our funeral services in the Orthodox Church, we say "Eonia Imnimni," and essentially, it's obviously eternal be their memory. You mentioned how you would remember events from those persons. Do you think that would be a great tool for persons who have also lost their parents?
I do it every year.
Yeah.
So because one passed away in January and the other one in November, in December the 17th, where it's Ayos Dionysus, I celebrate my name day. I do the mnemosynon for both of them, and it is a celebration of their life and their achievements. They came, my mum was an orphan.
Yes.
She was 6 years old when she lost her mother. She came with my dad, and they built a life in Australia, and all she had was faith, her panagia. That's all I could remember as a child, was her praying to the panagia. She was uneducated. She went to farms to do the cultural, to get the bigger visa and then to stay in Australia. And all she knew was her mother was panagia. And that really teaches us, because she couldn't teach us what she didn't know.
Yeah.
But that is a memory that will always stay with me. Just pray to the panagia. Yeah.
Now, we're going to ask you a question which has probably been made throughout human history, but we want to hear your opinion on it. What do you think is the meaning of life, and why do you think we're here on Earth?
Okay, so I was born, I personally believe, to help people. I've done it from a child. I really just believe that was my path from a young girl. From the neighbours that we grew up with, and I would go into their homes and I would help them. And because my mum and dad, they were preoccupied with the shop 7 days a week, and I just had this loving growing up just with community and neighbours, and I just feel like I've been put on this earth to just help people. I really do. And come the day when I do pass, I just been happy and joyous in giving back, helping.
So leave a world better off than you came in.
I would hope so, that everybody just does that little bit.
Yeah.
And if you do see someone struggling, you know what? It's sit down, have a conversation. You don't have to hold their hand to help them forever, that they exhaust you. You just have to be kind. And then eventually we all do our little bit. It makes light work for everybody. And eventually people do come around.
Right. That's great. So we want to give you a quote from St. Augustine, and I'm going to read it here so I don't mess it up.
Okay.
All right. He says, if you believe what you like in the Gospels and reject what you don't like, it is not the gospel you believe, but yourself. So I think where that's going is more so about picking and choosing the gospel and whether or not that is continuous with Christianity. But we want to know what your thoughts are with that quote and St. Augustine in general.
Well, I truly believe you can't pick and choose. If it's not God's will, it's never going to happen. I think if His path for you is a little bit different to what you, I'll take it from my own personal experience. I can pray for something, and if it doesn't happen, my path has gone a very different way. And then when you're reflecting, you see the bigger picture and you say, and that's why. And that's why we leave it to Him.
Right.
He knows best. We just have to believe that is, you just can't. You will go backwards and forwards, and His plan is His plan.
Yeah. And St. Augustine's an interesting saint.
I love how he mentions you can love the person, but you don't have to agree with what they're doing, because it just really resonates with me, with how much I've helped my brother and a lot of the things that he do, and it's not something that, you know, if anything, I've learned not to go down that path.
Yes.
Yeah, but we love, you know, we give, we love, and we just keep giving.
So we want to move on. Globally and around this world right now, there are many people suffering from depression and loneliness. I'm not sure how much of an experience you've had with that. At the same time, do you have any advice or wisdom to tell us about how to deal with loneliness and depression?
Distance yourself from what you think may be a problem. Depression is always thinking about the past. We have to move on. We can stay thinking about things that have happened to us, and we think that was just so unfair. Why? But that locks us into this state. If we don't pick ourselves up to say, okay, so how am I going to have a better tomorrow? And do a new beginning. Go back to what you enjoy. I like going for a walk along the beach. I start to do very simple things that I enjoy. I like to come to church and volunteer. It gives me great joy. So if people do have some free time, go and help out. There's a sense of community. There's a sense of joy to give back. And before you know it, you're not thinking about what's keeping you there. You're moving forward.
And that community, does that help with loneliness, which is the second?
Correct. You don't feel isolated.
Yep.
You don't feel like you're alone. You look forward to those 2-3 days that you might go and do your volunteer work. They stress that in my workplace a lot, like transition to retirement. Transition. Right. Don't go straight from being 7 days a week or 5 days a week, 5 days a week to retirement.
Yeah. You think you're missing something.
You're going to need something that you enjoy, something that you like, to be able to look forward to getting out of bed to do. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
Very, very important. Yeah.
So we want to now ask, what is your definition of a blessing? And also, does hope never die?
Hope never dies. I hope for my brother, and he's given me snippets of happiness, like through helping him for 25 years. Right. Like it's like this turnaround, that he even came to a family wedding from being isolated in his home. No, I can't today. No, I can't today. And now he goes out with his carers. He did cooking through COVID via the phone. He just gave me so many snippets of good news stories that I just think it's all through the prayer. It's all through praying for him. And he even came to church for that wedding, and I was just like so happy, you know. And it gives me great joy to see that never give up. And what was the other part of the question?
Well, your definition of a blessing, which might go into that. When you see people getting married and so on.
Okay, but I personally believe through blessings is like the protector, our God, coming through. And obviously you can get it through the priest when you've had confession, or when you're not feeling well, you can have a blessing to help you through your illness. I feel blessed. Another interpretation of it, that I went to the Holy Sepulchre and went into the tomb of God. I feel that was a blessing, that it was a lifetime experience and a blessing in the Jordan.
Yeah.
We can only ever be baptized once, but going through and having the blessing from Father Constantine in the River Jordan, that was amazing.
Right. Yes.
So I think it comes in many forms. It can be something that is through prayer, that's a blessing. It can be something that you've wished for and it's been granted. There's many interpretations of a blessing.
Yes. So could you also then give us a definition of what you think love is?
I've always looked at my mother's love for my brother. Unconditional. It didn't matter what he came home and said. It was always a hug, the good advice, and unconditional. It wasn't pick and choose what she wanted to. And I just think you can't pick and choose how much you're going to support someone or how much you're going to love someone. I think okay, you have to step away when it's too much, but you always bring in other help professionals, and it's support. Someone feeling supported and loved can, like we feel supported and loved with God, that's unconditional, Panagia, our saints. We, with that much faith, can move a mountain. So someone that's not coping with life, and we show them that little bit of respect, that little bit of support, or what avenue to take, and they're listening, and we're praying for them, because we can't do everything alone. But it's a sense of, it doesn't matter what anyone comes to you with.
Right.
You're not going to criticize, you're not going to reject them. You're just going to listen unconditionally, love them unconditionally, support unconditionally. To me, that just shows the bigger picture of love. Yeah.
Yes. So we want to go into a topic which may be a bit controversial, but that vast majority of influencers right now on social media and in the new age of, you could say, this new generation, they propose an idea of where you can manifest or think good thoughts and achieve anything you want to achieve and get everything you want to receive. At the same time, is there a time where that may not be the case, where you may not get everything you want? And in that sense, when they propose what freedom is it actual freedom to not have those things when you want them or when you manifest them?
I don't believe that we should go into social media and believe that if we sit there manifesting what we want for our life, that it's going to turn up on our doorstep.
Right.
I can't believe, if it's not God's will, I don't believe that that's going to come through. Like, unless it's God's will, and for His reasons, unknown to us, things happen and things may not happen. It's accepting and moving on. Yes, we can pray that that's what we would like, and we can believe that His will be the right outcome, but I don't believe that we should take to heart, what social media puts up there, can be very destructive and destroys a lot of lives.
On the other side, would hard work be able to get you at least close to what you want to get to in that sense? Obviously within God's will.
Hard work is good. I've never seen anybody die from hard work. It's so good for you. You use your brain, you interact with people, you learn, you get a lot of knowledge. Hard work is really, really good. I believe I've worked hard all my life. I can't thank God enough for saving me so many times. And I reflect back on my life and say, how did I achieve this? When did I achieve this? How did I get all this? I'm beside myself, and I'm being completely honest. I only mentioned it only a few weeks ago. All these things have come through my path, and the richness of my life that I've had, the events and the learnings, and just so much love, so much inspiration from people and guidance, and through the fathers, through the scriptures, through the sacraments of the church. I can't believe that through the church I've had more social outings and more social gatherings than what I would have been away from the church. It's a place full of love and the right direction, and I honestly believe, let's get people to the church and let God's will work through them and His love. I can't stress it enough.
Yeah, definitely. So we see our generations are getting older and older. We have a longer life, and that's good in that sense. At the same time, there are people out there who want to live forever almost. And do you believe they're afraid of dying, or is there another innate fear that they have?
I think everybody's got that little bit of fear of the unknown. Like as much as I've said, and a nun actually said to me, the only reason you didn't die that night was because you're not scared to die. And I just say to people, like, be ready, but don't be afraid, because we believe that we go to a better place. And especially when the elderly are in pain or the quality of life goes, like I saw with my father,
Right.
I can honestly say, even with my sister's little boy, he was 8 months. He was born a premature little boy, and he lived for 8 months, and we were praying that he wouldn't pass away. But by the time they had done so many things to him and so much medication, everybody was asking for God to take the little angel of 8 months. And they baptized him in the air, and then his godfather took his little coffin, and we had a little burial service for him, a proper funeral. So when you see people suffering and there's no quality of life, I would say to leave this life would be the better alternative. Yeah.
Well,
but don't be afraid.
Yes, and that's actually very good too. And
yeah, don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
So we want to thank you very much. Thank you for having us interview you, and we want to obviously thank the audience for listening.
Thank you.
And you did provide us a lot of important advice, which I'm hoping the audience will take. And we would like to give you a little present. We got here a chocolate bar.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, and we want to do a few announcements at the very end, but yeah, we like to thank you for being here at the church.
Thank you.
So, Pearls of Wisdom, this was our newer interview. We've got more to come, and with that, we want you to subscribe, maybe ring the notification bell, and like the video. We would like you to tune in for more Pearls of Wisdom, and even join the St. Stylianos youth group if you are of the age limits. And it is all here at Gaimea. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.